built-in protection. Good.
All of the pistons and con rods ready now.
If you're planning on following along, I would advise having enough room around the front to maneuver an engine hoist. Other than that, taking this on in a standard garage is totally doable. No extreme shop tools like a vehicle lift needed, just an engine hoist and stand. To start, I'm taking the bonnet off by removing the gas struts that hold it up, using tape to mark the exact location of the hinges so it can go back in exactly the same alignment, and then propping it up with the good old broom and getting a bit of help to remove the bolts and take it off. The engine is much more accessible and has better lighting after that. Of course, all the fluids will be drained to make it lighter and prevent spills when disconnecting it. And just before getting to disconnecting things from the engine, I just want to say if anything is not 100% clear, it will definitely become crystal clear when putting the engine back in and as time goes on, because I'll be going over it in much more detail than now when the main focus is getting it out fairly quickly, because I figured it'd be much easier to explain when all the parts are cleaner and easier to see. So if you don't see exactly how to do something, don't worry. You'll disconnect any of the obvious and easy things first, like the intercooler and clutter that gets in the way like vacuum lines, noting where they connect. The ultimate goal being to get to the engine lift mounts, like this one located here. If you have any aftermarket stuff like temp sensors and wiring for fans, disconnect that too, alongside more obvious things like the battery or two. I removed the extremities like the intake, radiator and main coolant pipes, getting ready to remove things like the AC compressor that are attached but not part of the engine. You can follow some of the wiring around and just disconnect the obvious ones like the injectors, alternator connections, working your way backwards towards the firewall and where it crosses over other plugs. You also disconnect coolant pipes that go into things like the heater in the cab that block access to removing things like the exhaust dump pipe, which will of course need to come off so the engine can be removed independently. The bolts for which are quite easy to access here. Next, you can remove the belt at the front, which is super easy on this engine. Just place a ratchet on the tensioner bracket's big bolt and lift up to loosen the tension, and the belt slides right off. You can remove the AC compressor and move it out the way without needing to degas and regas it, which is super handy because I know a lot of people just won't want to do that. You just unbolt it from its bracket by 4 bolts, 1 on each side and 2 on the bottom. The lines are both flexible, you just have to be gentle and careful of the hard lines of course, not to crack or overbend those, and it sits perfectly on the battery arch bit here. With that, you can already see how exposed the engine is and how easy it is to get out. The first part of the wiring just gets pulled to the side and draped over the side of the car carefully. The next thing I need to get to is the throttle body, which is held on by 4 bolts in the corners and its plug. That opens up the space needed to work on the intake side. First up, you'll need to get that top bolt of the starter motor. To make it easier to film and to do it at some point, the power steering reservoir can be removed now by disconnecting the return pipe and catching the fluid, then removing its mount bracket that just has 2 small bolts at the bottom, and removing the supply line to the pump at the pump. Plug it to prevent dirt getting in, and then you can unbolt the pressure side of the line by its big bolt here. I keep it with the pump so you don't lose it. Next, I remove the dipstick, which has 2 bolts at the top which you can see, and one other slightly tricky one further down the pipe. You can see then how much easier it is to get your hand in on this side to reach the starter motor bolt and a few other things with the throttle body and dipstick out. I took some of the fuel lines out of the way when I removed the fuel filter just to the left of this. It is a bit tricky, but once you know, it's much easier. Right next to the bolt, right where you want to put your tools or hand onto the bolt, there is a plug that tends to poke and cut your hand. You can see the blue wire that I fiddle with. It's the one that connects onto the oil pressure sensor and makes it stick out further when it's connected. There is also a connection for the vacuum line for the swirl flaps of the intake manifold just above that, so you can disconnect that too. The top bolt for the starter motor also holds on a support bracket for the transmission fluid dipstick. You can see it all just here. From the underside, you can see the bottom bolt of the starter motor is right here, along with the plug for it that you can disconnect quite easily from either side. While you're under the car, you can remove the dump pipe from underneath by unbolting it from the turbo and the rest of the exhaust, and then removing any support bolts on the side and taking it out the bottom, which you can fit out quite easily without a lift because it's quite a high 4x4. At this point, almost everything will be removed and you should have a decent parts pile like this. It's a good idea to sort it and keep track of it in a logical or chronological order. I had the starter motor and its 2 bolts here, the dipstick with its 1 tricky bolt here and 2 bolts here, the power steering reservoir with its clamps and hoses still attached to it, with its 2 mounting bolts there and there. All kept together because they're from the same side and area. Then I've got these 3 from the throttle body side too, 2 bolts that hold on the wiring harness, and the one that holds the starter motor's positive terminal on, all very close together. The exhaust flange and dump pipe bolts and nuts, the AC compressor and its brackets bolts, the 1 bolt for the tensioner pulley assembly here, then I've got the alternator's mounting, positive and ground connecting bolts. The rest is largely things that might be replaced, like the intercooler and its brackets, so I'm not going to cover them specifically, but things like the fuse box cover, breather pipe and coolant pipes are really big and obvious where they go. And all the other little bits like radiator mounts, the air filter box, battery trays and washer fluid container that are super self-explanatory. Next up, on the inside, you need to remove the center console, which will all become clear later. It's really simple. The reason being is there are 2 infamous bolts on the top of the bell housing that connect the transmission to the engine that basically cannot be accessed from the bottom. You have to access them through the transmission tunnel. But don't be intimidated, I'll show you a few handy tricks and it actually becomes very easy to do. To remove the shifter, you need to disconnect the shift arm from underneath the car, which is just 1 attachment. Just straighten and pull out the bent locking pin and the shift arm slides right out. Just keep the washers that may fall off. The shifter can then flop around in any gear without affecting the car, so make sure you have it in neutral but with the handbrake on, so if you need to turn the transmission or crank when removing and refitting the engine, it can spin freely. The shifter has an upper plastic, but the main part you disconnect is the 4 nuts on the metal plate on the bottom and the shift cable inside the cab from the plastic mechanism. Don't break any plastics, take your time and wiggle it out. Then take out the center plate by 6 screws and then you can see the 2 bolts pretty easily through here. Before going any further, I just want to show that everything that has been done so far on the car has been done in position in a standard shed/garage and without any special tools. Before we get to disconnecting the transmission, the rest of the wiring harness can be detached. Unbolt its top bracket first. It connects the cam and crank sensors here, running behind a few brackets and this hard vacuum line that just keeps it away from the spinning belt and pulleys. You can then remove its hard plastic protective cover by its 2 mounting bolts, 1 here and 1 at the top, with the earlier mentioned connection to the engine mount unbolted and unclipped. Then also pull and drape it over the side fender away from the engine. You can then remove the alternator, which is just added weight when removing and in the way of getting to lift mounts on the head. It just has 1 bolt at the top and 2 at the bottom. Next up, this 1 coolant pipe on the side of the head comes out to give access to the side lift mount. It has hoses either side, a flange onto the head here, and 2 mounting bolts here and here. Be careful, with the old rubbers it might be super tight, just take your time and work it out. I got the bull bar out of the way to give closer access for the engine hoist, and then I start fabricating the engine lift mounts, which was super easy, because to buy the Nissan ones would have taken a long time for shipping and cost quite a lot. So obviously there is no certification here, but how I made them was by using these thick L brackets used for mounting incredibly heavy things, but I'm not using the bench strength anyway, just the flat parts. So I cut away the excess, I then repeated the design for the other side. It just needs 2 bolt holes into the head, and a hole to attach the hoist's chains to lift it. So I drilled 3 holes to the correct size of the bolts that are used. You just have to radius the 1 corner, I'll show you why in a second, but it leaves plenty of metal between the hole and the edge. It's basically just the intake manifold's corner sticks out quite a bit here, and I don't want the mount to be contacting it and maybe adding tension or cracking anything. So it's just to clear this, The other side is very open and exposed, so there is no need, it's just easy to access. So just two simple mounts like this, nice, strong, thick 6mm metal plates with holes for mounting. You can see why I chose to just make them. It's really easy. With basic tools, anyone can do it. Just please make sure you use good quality and thick steel, just basically thicker than what the hoist looks like and is rated for. Under the car, you disconnect the transmission fluid cooler lines by unbolting it here, 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 and the banjo bolt into the transmission on this side. These bottom two aren't connected, and then this banjo bolt on the other side. Here's another angle of the first banjo bolt here, one mounting bracket, 2, 3, and 4. Now the reason the transmission lines have to come out is simple. You can see here, even if you flex them, they don't fit around the engine's upper sump, which cannot be removed in place while it's connected to the transmission. I then got the grille and lights out of the way so that I can get closer with the hoist so it can have a shorter lever and let me access everything easier. Most lifts should fit underneath the car and between the tires just fine. You can see now I've attached the engine lift points, and you can see the thickness of the brackets I made compared to the brackets that come with the hoist, which is rated to over 2 tons. But still, just doing everything smart, like using high tensile, good quality bolts and nuts, and using washers to spread the clamp loads and prevent cracking, bending, and things like that. The top one you don't need to tighten too much, because you want it to find its optimal angle when it's pulling tension through the chains, but the washers still help keep it straight. You don't want the brackets too long so they aren't trying to bend when it's pulling towards the middle, but you also want to have enough to clear the plastic valve cover so you don't crack that with pressure from a bolt pushing on it or something. It's just a bit of give and take. But again, it's a good thickness bracket and bolts reaching as far in as possible without bottoming out in the threads and allowing it to tighten the bracket on. Just by measuring the depth of the hole and getting the bolts that are only slightly smaller than that, after accounting for the thickness of the washer and brackets it passes through. Now with the engine just lightly supported, not lifted at all, you can begin disconnecting the transmission or bell housing bolts. I used a large long reach extension, small extension, downsize a bit, a long medium extension, a second long medium extension, and a deep reach socket to be able to reach the bolts and have the ratchet or breaker bar stick up through the transmission tunnel. And it's actually quite simple to reach through with this combo. Put the end of it in your hand and guide it onto the bolt, trying to touch the bolt with your hand basically, then placing the socket onto it. You can see I've gotten these bolts out just fine doing it like this, and actually rather easily. It wasn't nearly as difficult as others made it out, just a bit of skill and technique. To give you an idea, this is about how far I've had to reach into the tunnel, just about up to your shoulder while lying in the footwell and over the center console, and holding the tool in your hand. Then with the other hand, you can keep pressure on the back of the extensions so it stays firmly over the bolt and allows you to attach the ratchet or bar and break it loose. The only thing is you'll get quite dirty because the chances are this area has never been cleaned, so either maybe put a towel over your carpets, or if you're going to be removing and cleaning it like me, it's not that big of a deal, but it's up to you. Once the top two are out, you can then go underneath the car and disconnect the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bolts from the engine, and there's actually an 8th on the other side. So don't miss that one, or you'll be trying to yank the engine off and pry the transmission off with it still being together because you didn't see it from the other side. And that just holds on the one bracket for the transmission lines. You can then see why you might want to remove an engine. If you've got coolant leaks, oil leaks, and the cylinders or the whole engine might just need a refresh. Next up is the engine mounts. I initially tried just removing the top bolts, but you actually won't get enough space like that to go up enough and far enough forward to get over the stud. So what I ended up doing, which I believe you have to do, is remove the mount from the block. They both just have 4 bolts, which are really finicky, but you can get to them most easily with a spanner from the bottom of the car, or if you have the perfect size tools and patience to fit in the gaps, because the bolts are quite shrouded. But it is doable. I did it all just fine. Just have some patience, and now seriously, when you support the engine, don't move it before removing the engine mounts from the block, because if you have it weirdly resting on rubber mounts or on the stud, and you think you can squeeze a finger in to get to a bolt easier, and it moves or shifts, the whole weight of a 300 kilo engine can crush or take your fingers straight off. I had a close call, so please take your time and just do it from the bottom with a spanner, bit by bit. The one side is even easier because 2 of the bolts are unshrouded and easily accessible. You can then just remove the 2 nuts on the bottom of the rubber mounts and get those out after the engine mounts onto the block have come out. Before taking the engine out, the parts pile should now include this one little attachment for the one wiring harness that holds it up at the firewall. That crossover piping from the exhaust side and the alternator. There's also the 4 big bolts and 5 smaller ones for the transmission or bell housing mounting to the engine. Plus, the one from the other side that I put with the little transmission line bracket that it holds on, not with these bolts here. I also just forgot to film this one piece, but you just remove the sway bar from under the car pretty early on, just before removing the exhaust and bell housing bolts, because it gets in the way of all of these things. This photo has some aftermarket bits, but it's just 2 bolts and 1 nut on the drop links on either side, and then the bar can be taken out. The last thing that keeps the engine attached to the transmission is the torque converter bolting onto the flex or mounting plate on the back of the engine. You can access these bolts through these 2 little hard to spot rubber covers. One of them looks like this and sits right next to the starter motor's hole. You have to be extra careful not to drop a bolt down the cavity. You can turn the engine over by hand using a big shifting spanner firmly on the crank pulley nut. And once you've got those out, the engine and transmission can still be tricky, but if all is disconnected and it's still a bit tough due to corrosion or just age fusing them together a little bit, a mega handy little tip is to get a flat screwdriver, and there is a small gap here that you can use to pry and lever it off. You are just levering against the sump, which is soft aluminium, so don't pry and bend too hard where you might crack it and need new parts. But this really made it easy for me as opposed to yanking on the engine from the front, damaging the transmission mounts and wrestling a giant block of metal. You can then pull it forward enough to clear the torque converter and any wiring or mounts, checking as you go, and keeping it all straight as it'll want to turn just to straighten out with the hoist's mounting bar because of the mounting in the cross corners. But you can use the coolant pipe as a wonderful control arm to hold the engine where you want it. Just don't be too rough because it is just a coolant pipe, but it does have some fairly beefy support bolts, and that's why I was okay with it. You will need to lift the engine very high to get it over the front body, so make sure you have high enough ceilings and a long enough arm to do this, and if you really get stuck, you maybe might just get enough clearance by letting tire pressures down, but this you have to prepare for before you start. And there we are, the engine is out. You can take this time to check over everything.
Oh yes! He done it!
This is also a good place to show you the holes for accessing the torque converter bolts, but after all that, then mine slid out and stayed with the engine. Just by luck, but look out for this and make sure you don't drop the torque converter, because actually, all that was holding mine on at the moment was a small little locating bit in the middle. So it was actually a bit of a drop hazard. I don't know how rare this is, but be careful. And that wraps up this episode. The engine is out and the rebuild can now begin with easy access to everything. In the next episode, the next phase is engine disassembly. Thank you so much for watching, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.